You started at such a young age. Did you think of it as a career, or were you having fun?
Like I said, I always felt like an outsider because I knew of people, that were in the industry. I just didn't know how to get into it. I remember going to different agents when I was 9 or 10 years old. I was rejected twice. I remember there was like this sort of cattle call of kids, and I lined up. It was like a prison photo or something like that. And I'm standing there like this, and I had this crazy breakdancing haircut from when I was breakdancing, and I kind of dressed in hip-hop clothing, and I remember they went, yes, yes, went to me, went, nope, yes, yes, nope, yes,
Wow.
yes. And that was it. So I got rejected a couple times, and then I just kept asking and asking and asking. And I remember my dad saying, just stick with it. Someday you'll have your day. And then I came back, I think, 2 years later and finally got an agent.
I only really started enjoying acting when there was a certain level of detachment from the end result, because I meet a lot of young actors. They always ask me, "Oh, what's your advice? What do you do? How do you get your foot in the door?" I remember at a very young age, being 15 years old, and going on 160 auditions for a year and a half and not getting a single role. And I started to realize that I'd become a product or a part of this system wherein everyone is so aiming to please. Everyone's so aiming to please the director, the casting director, and you have to come in with a certain amount of charm and enthusiasm, and basically turning into one of these Hollywood puppet kids that comes in, "Hi, I'm Leo, and I'm going to be reading this today." And oh yeah, I had a great day at school. I love school. I love biology. So I started to realize that this stuff has been like rubbing off on me. And one day I just was talking to my mom. I was like, "God, I think I haven't gotten a job in a year and a half. I'm am I washed up at 14 years old? What the hell is going on? I don't know. Should I quit?" And she's like, "Well, do you still love doing it?" And I said, I love it. Every time I get a job, I'm ecstatic. I love being on set. I love acting. You know that." And she said, "Okay, well then keep at it." And there was a certain level of having to say, "All right, fuck these people. Screw what they think. I don't care ultimately." And once there was a certain level of detachment there, then I really started to look at the characters and really started to say, okay, what is really going on with this character? What is this character going through? What can I give? And when you don't aim to please them, some of the greatest performances of all time, you look at it and there is that level of detachment from the acting process. I'm going to play jazz here. I'm going to do whatever, my instincts, call upon me to do within these characters' shoes. And going back to what young kids always ask me about, what do you do to become an actor? You have the same pat answer. But I keep wanting to tell them, it's like, ultimately you have to not care what these people think about you and take the responsibility of the character into your own hands.
What is your advice to younger actors?
If it is your passion, like any art form, you have to know about its history. You have to see movies, you have to see what's been done before, and you have to work your ass off to try to make these characters believable, because, cinema doesn't lie, film does not lie. It doesn't. And people can see the transparency of you not knowing what you're doing.
Auditioning at any age is a cruel process.
Horrible. It's the worst.
What's it like as a kid? How do you handle that rejection?
It's interesting because I remember, you're sort of set up and you're put into this system where I think that you're supposed to be a jack of all trades, and you're 11, 12 years old, and you're sort of conditioned to say, well, the casting director's there and say, well, can you juggle? And you're like, absolutely I can juggle, can you ski? Hell yeah, I'm your man, I'll do whatever you want, little tap dancing show. So you're supposed to set yourself up as somebody that can, basically do anything that they want. And I remember sort of having that attitude for a while, and I didn't book a job for a year at 12, 13 years old. And I know that's not that's like a big sob story, but but the truth is, it was that year of rejection where I finally said to I suppose I took a different attitude towards the audition process, and I started to get jobs after that. And I think it was really because I said to myself, I'm not dependent on this job. This isn't going to define me, and I started to sell myself less, prepare more for the roles, really investigate the characters as much as I could, and not feel like, my self-worth was dependent on whether I booked the job or not. And I think that's finally what clicked with me, and I realized that casting directors weren't always necessarily looking for the Broadway showman that could do whatever they wanted, but somebody that had, I don't want to say a little edge to them, but, a different attitude about the audition process. Because, you focus more on the work, you focus more on the character rather than selling yourself constantly to these people. And the auditioning process at a young age was kind of cutthroat. I mean, I remember a kid bringing a gun to an audition.
A real
I do,
one?
yeah, a real gun. It was a kid that
Did he
brought a
get the
gun.
part?
He might have gotten the role.
When you start off in this industry, like kind of watching some of the great performances of the past, and you say to yourself, one day I want to do something that good, that thirst is never quenched, so you keep striving, Man, I love it. You know that. You know I'd love it. But it's not like I'm gonna expect it, You gotta let these things come if they come, and if they don't, then you just, you don't think about it. It's a little thought in my mind, but nothing major.